A rich, earthy scent of rain-soaked earth and a whisper of expensive cologne filled her nostrils before she even opened her eyes. Esther's fingers stilled on the mop handle, the scent of lemon polish now mingling with something intoxicating, something deeply comforting, in the air. When she finally looked up, Tae-hyun stood in the doorway, his leather gloves discarded, and his expression carved into a soft, inviting smile. A small scratch, barely visible but kissed with the lightest hint of crimson, traced the curve of his knuckles. "Say that again." Her voice barely rose above a whisper, disbelief coating every syllable. His eyes remained fixed on some distant point beyond her shoulder, cold and unreachable. "You understand perfectly. Carry my child or disappear from this house." The world tilted sideways. 2.5 months of stolen moments in the library at midnight, his lips tracing poetry onto her collarbone in the greenhouse, the way he'd memorized how she took her tea. All of it crumbled like ash between her fingers. "This can't be real. Tell me you're not serious right now. Have I given you reason to believe I jest?" He moved closer and she caught the scent of his cologne, the same fragrance that had clung to her skin 3 nights ago when they'd fallen asleep, tangled together on the piano bench. "You've got 14 days, 2 weeks to decide." She couldn't form the words. The impossibility choked her. "Tae-hyun, we haven't even—" "Then tonight we begin." His tone was surgical, devoid of anything resembling warmth, as though she'd become nothing more than a contract to be executed. "Otherwise, collect your belongings and vanish. The decision rests with you." The air left her lungs in a rush. The antique clock in the corridor ceased its ticking. Her body forgot the rhythm of breathing. "What's changed? Why are you acting like this?" "I require an heir, and you're available?" He pivoted away, dismissing her as if she hadn't spent last weekend in his embrace while he murmured promises in Korean that her heart understood even when her mind couldn't translate. "Nothing more complicated than that. I don't recognize you anymore." The words scraped her throat raw, tears burning behind her eyes. "Correct," he said, pausing before crossing the threshold. "You never did." The door clicked shut with devastating finality. Esther's legs gave out, her knees striking the marble floor with a crack that barely registered. Her hands shook so violently she had to press them flat against the cold stone to stop the tremors. Her phone vibrated in her apron pocket. A message from him, sent before he'd even left the hallway. "Dinner at 7:30. Dress appropriately. We have arrangements to finalize." Arrangements. That's what she'd been reduced to. 10 weeks earlier. "There's absolutely no way you're taking this position." Imani's voice crackled through Esther's phone as she stood before the towering iron gates of the Thai compound. "Scrubbing floors for the wealthy. You graduated summa cum laude." "A degree that landed me precisely nowhere with 90,000 in student loans." Esther adjusted her duffel bag, staring up at the estate that looked like it belonged in a Seoul period drama, not the outskirts of Los Angeles. "The pay is exceptional, Imani. Genuinely exceptional. Enough to help Mama and actually put something in savings." "And what exactly do we know about this Thai family?" "They pay in cash every Friday and keep to themselves." Esther pressed the call button on the intercom. "I'll be perfectly fine. It's housekeeping." A woman's voice answered in rapid Korean before switching to heavily accented English. "State your name." "Esther Mitchell. I'm the new—" The gate swung open before she could finish. The house, no. Calling it a house was an insult, was absurd. Creamstone, 4 levels, with gardens that looked professionally manicured hourly. Esther felt inadequate in her jeans and plain navy shirt, despite being here exclusively to scrub bathrooms. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Choi, met her at the staff entrance. Mid-60s, silver hair pulled into a severe bun, face that had lost the ability to smile decades ago. "You're tardy." Esther checked her phone. She was 4 minutes early. "My apologies, Come, I show." Mrs. Choi's English was fractured but commanding. She moved with surprising speed, leading Esther through a labyrinth of corridors. You clean 4th floor. Young Master Tae's private quarters. Nobody goes there except you. Understand? Young Master Tae? Tae-hyun, the son. He controls everything now. Mrs. Choi's voice dropped to barely audible. His father passed 18 months ago. Very complex family situation. You complete your work, you don't inquire. You receive payment. Straightforward. Nothing about this felt straightforward. Mrs. Choi stopped before a door requiring a fingerprint scanner. She pressed her thumb to it and it clicked open. You receive your own access by tomorrow. For now, announce yourself before entering. Always. Young Master values his privacy extremely. The 4th floor existed in a different universe from the rest of the estate. Darker, more masculine, expensive artwork lined the walls, traditional Korean pieces alongside contemporary abstracts, the aroma of sandalwood and something else, something that made Esther's pulse quicken with awareness. Begin with the study, Mrs. Choi instructed. He's absent until evening. Then she abandoned Esther alone in a space that felt too intimate, too personal for a stranger to clean. The study was pristine, almost unused. A massive oak desk, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens, bookshelves filled with volumes in Korean, English, Mandarin. Esther ran her cloth along the desk, checking for dust. That's when she noticed it. A photograph tucked beneath some paperwork. A teenage Tae-hyun, perhaps 17, with a girl roughly the same age, both grinning, his arm draped across her shoulders. Esther shouldn't have looked, shouldn't have wondered. Who authorized you to touch that? Esther spun around, heart lodged in her throat. The man in the doorway stood at least 6'3", probably 33, with sharp features and dark hair styled back, wearing a suit that likely cost more than her annual rent. His eyes were the darkest she'd ever encountered, and they were fixed on her like a predator marking prey. I apologize, I was simply dusting. I didn't intend to… Leave. One word, frigid as winter. She grabbed her supplies and rushed past him, her shoulder grazing his chest. The contact sent electricity coursing through her body that she absolutely refused to acknowledge. In the corridor, she pressed her back against the wall, attempting to steady her breathing. Through the door, she heard him make a phone call in rapid Korean, his voice sharp and furious. This position was going to be considerably more complicated than she'd anticipated. Present day, 7:30. Esther didn't own anything appropriate. Not the kind of appropriate that belonged in a dining room where a single spoon probably cost more than her car payment. She'd settled on a simple black dress she'd purchased for her graduation and never worn after. It felt like a costume, like she was performing a role in someone else's production. Tae-hyun was already seated when she entered, wineglass in hand, looking like he'd been sculpted from marble and expensive fabric. He didn't rise when she appeared, didn't even acknowledge her presence. Sit, she sat. The chair was more luxurious than her mattress. A staff member she'd never seen materialized with plates. Some kind of elaborate Korean fusion dish that resembled art. Her stomach was too knotted to eat. You never answered earlier, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Why me? Is it relevant? He cut his food with surgical precision. You require money. I require an heir. It's transactional. Transactional? She laughed, but it emerged bitter. 3 weeks ago, you told me I was extraordinary, that you'd never encountered anyone like me. Was that transactional too? His jaw tightened. For a split second, something flickered in his eyes. Pain, perhaps, or regret. But it vanished as quickly as it materialized. That was an error in judgment. Which part? The words or the emotions? Both. He finally looked at her and his gaze was arctic. Your staff, Miss Mitchell. I momentarily forgot that distinction. It won't occur again. The words were a physical blow. Esther's hands curled into fists beneath the table. Then terminate my employment. Let me leave with my dignity intact. No. He sipped his wine. You signed a contract. 24 months. You violate it. You owe me 60,000 in penalties. Can you manage that? She couldn't. He knew she couldn't. The contract had seemed standard when she'd signed it. Protection for both parties, Mrs. Choi had explained. Now it felt like a prison. So what? You're coercing me into bearing your child? Her voice rose. Do you comprehend how insane that sounds? Lower your voice. His tone was lethally quiet. And yes, that's precisely what's happening. Why? She leaned forward, searching his face for any trace of the man who'd held her while they watched the sunrise from his terrace. What happened? What changed? For a moment, just a moment, his mask fractured. She saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes, a heaviness in the set of his shoulders. Then he rebuilt the walls brick by brick. My grandfather happened. He controls the family empire and he's issued an ultimatum. Produce an heir within the next 12 months, or he transfers everything to my cousin, everything my father built, everything I've sacrificed for. So marry someone. Find a suitable Korean woman from an appropriate family. I can't. His voice was sharp enough to draw blood. It's complicated, but you're not embedded in this world. You're not connected to the families, the politics. You're ideal. Ideal. She tasted the word like poison. I'm ideal because I'm nobody, because I'm insignificant. He didn't deny it. Esther stood, her chair scraping against the floor. I'd rather live on the streets than be your breeding stock. She was at the door when his voice stopped her. Your mother's medical expenses? Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. $53,000 in outstanding debt and climbing. Lupus treatment isn't inexpensive. Her blood turned to ice. How did you... I investigate everyone, Esther. Your mother's condition, your younger brother in college, your father who abandoned you when you were 11. He stood now, moving toward her with predatory grace. I can eliminate all of it. Every bill, every debt. Your family will never struggle again. You investigated me. The betrayal burned worse than his earlier coldness. I investigate everyone. He stopped inches from her, close enough that she could feel his body heat. Agree, and your mother receives the treatment she desperately needs. Your brother completes his education. You'll have sufficient funds to never clean another toilet. And if I refuse? His eyes were empty. Then I enforce the contract penalties, sue you for breach, and ensure nobody in this city will employ you. You'll lose everything, and your mother's condition will deteriorate without proper care. Your choice. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not in front of him. Not when he'd transformed into a monster wearing the face of the man she'd foolishly started falling for. I despise you, she whispered. Good. He stepped back, adjusting his cufflinks. Hatred is simpler than what existed between us before. Tomorrow night. My bedroom. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. He left her standing there, trembling and shattered, in a dining room that cost more than her entire existence. The following morning, Esther called in sick. She spent 4 hours sobbing into Imani's shoulder in her tiny apartment, revealing everything. Let me understand this correctly, Imani said, pacing like a caged animal. This wealthy psychopath is blackmailing you into pregnancy, or he'll financially destroy your family. Essentially, yes. Esther, sweetheart, that's coercion. That's criminal. We need to contact the police, an attorney, someone. And say what? That my employer is enforcing a contract I willingly signed. Esther wiped her eyes. He's too powerful, Imani. His family, they're connected. Apparently his grandfather controls half the Korean business operations on the West Coast. I researched him last night. Tae-hyun isn't just wealthy. He's dangerous. So what's your plan? Esther stared at her phone, at the text message that had arrived 2 hours ago. Your mother's treatment has been fully covered. See you tonight. KM. He'd already begun, already purchased her before she'd even consented. I have no idea, she whispered. I honestly have no idea. 8 o'clock. His bedroom was less clinical than she'd expected. Deep charcoal and silver tones, minimal furniture, but somehow still refined. A massive bed dominated the center, California king, maybe larger. The thought of what was supposed to happen there made her want to vomit. Tae-hyun emerged from the bathroom in black silk sleep pants, and nothing else. His chest was sculpted, decorated with a tattoo she'd never seen before, a phoenix that wrapped around his ribs. Her body reacted against her will, heat pooling low in her belly. "You came," he said, almost surprised. "You paid my mother's hospital bills. You eliminated my choice." She stood near the door, arms wrapped around herself. "How do you want to proceed?" Something flickered across his face. "Esther." "No." She cut him off. "You don't get to use my name like we're friends, like you didn't threaten to destroy my family yesterday. You want this to be transactional? Fine, let's transact." She reached for the hem of her shirt. "Stop." His voice cracked like a whip. "Just stop." "Why?" She was shouting now. "Isn't this what you want?" "Not like this." He ran a hand through his hair, the first uncontrolled gesture she'd seen from him. "Hell, not like this." "Then how?" She was screaming now, 10 weeks of confusion and pain and betrayal exploding out of her. "How do you want me, Tae-hyun? Tell me how to be the perfect vessel for your heir." "I said stop." He grabbed her wrists, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to still her. His chest was heaving, his eyes wild. "This is wrong. I know it's wrong. I don't have another option." "There's always an option." "Not in my world." His grip softened, his thumbs absently stroking her wrists. The tenderness of the gesture broke something in her. "You don't understand what my family is, what they're capable of if I don't comply." "Then explain it to me." She looked up at him, searching for any trace of the man she'd known. "Make me understand why you're doing this." For a long moment he just stared at her. Then he released her wrists and stepped back. "Get out." "What?" "Leave." "I can't." His voice was raw. "I can't do this tonight. Just go." Esther didn't wait for him to change his mind. She fled, his broken expression seared into her memory. 2 weeks later, Esther had perfected the art of avoiding Tae-hyun. She cleaned his rooms when she knew he was absent, left before he returned, ignored his messages. He didn't push, didn't appear at her door, didn't demand she fulfill their arrangement. The silence was somehow worse than the threats. "You look like death," Imani said, meeting her for lunch at their usual diner. "Have you eaten anything this week?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine, you're wasting away." Imani reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Talk to me. What's happening?" "What's there to say? I'm trapped. He's left me alone for now, but eventually he'll—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Perhaps he won't." A new voice interrupted. Male, smooth. Esther looked up to see a man about Tae-hyun's age with warm eyes and an easy smile standing beside their table. "Excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing. You work for Tae-hyun?" "Who's asking?" Imani's tone was immediately suspicious. "Marcus Chen. I'm a friend of his. Well, friend might be generous. Business associate." He extended his hand. "And you're right to be worried. Tae-hyun's in an impossible situation." Esther's heart sank. "You know about the heir requirement?" "Yeah. His grandfather's been pressuring him for months." Marcus slid into the booth uninvited, his expression sympathetic. "For what it's worth, I don't think he actually wants to go through with it. He's been a mess since his father died, making decisions that aren't like him." "You're defending him?" Esther's voice was sharp. "No, I'm explaining him. There's a difference." Marcus leaned forward. "Tae-hyun's father was murdered 18 months ago, shot in what the police classified as a robbery, but everyone knows it was a hit. Business rivals, the kind of people who don't operate by normal rules. Tae-hyun inherited that world, the legitimate businesses and the not-so-legitimate connections. His grandfather is old school, believes in bloodlines and tradition. If Tae-hyun doesn't produce an heir, everything transfers to his cousin, Jin-ho, who's basically a sociopath." Esther's head spun. "He never told me any of this." "Would you have believed him, or would you have thought it was an excuse?" Marcus shrugged. "Tae-hyun's terrible at vulnerability. Always has been. He'd rather be the villain than admit he's scared. Imani finally spoke up. Okay, but none of that makes it acceptable to blackmail someone into pregnancy? Agreed. That's why I'm here. Marcus pulled out a business card. I run a law firm specializing in contract law and international business. If you want out, I can find a way. Pro bono. Esther stared at the card. Why would you help me? Because Tae-hyun's my friend and he's drowning. Someone needs to throw him a lifeline before he destroys himself and everyone around him. Marcus stood. Think about it. Call me if you want to talk. After he left, Imani grabbed the card. That was bizarre, right? That was incredibly bizarre. Everything about this is bizarre. Esther pushed her untouched food away. I need heir. She went to the estate that night, not to clean but to confront. Mrs. Choi tried to stop her at the staff entrance, but Esther pushed past, taking the stairs to the 4th floor 2 at a time. Tae-hyun's study door was open. He sat at his desk, head in his hands, surrounded by papers and empty coffee cups. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Marcus Chen came to see me, she announced from the doorway. Tae-hyun's head snapped up. What? He told me about your father, about Jin-ho, about the real reason you're doing this. She stepped into the room. Why didn't you just tell me? Because it doesn't change anything. He stood, exhaustion evident in every movement. My problems aren't your responsibility. But making me your breeding stock is fair game. He flinched. I thought I could separate it. Business and whatever we had. I thought I could just... He made a frustrated gesture. I was wrong about all of it. So where does that leave us? I don't know. The admissions seemed to cost him. I paid off your mother's bills, your brother's tuition for next semester. Consider it severance. You're released from your contract. Esther's breath caught. What? You're free. Leave. Find a life that doesn't involve me and my messed up family. He sat back down, dismissing her. Mrs. Choi will have your final check tomorrow. She should have felt relief. Victory. Instead, all she felt was hollow. That's it. You're just done. What do you want from me, Esther? His voice was sharp with pain. You want me to keep you trapped? To force you into something that makes you look at me like I'm a monster? I want the truth. She was shouting again. I want to know if any of it was real. The conversations, the touches, the night you held me and told me about your mother's garden. Was any of it real? Or was I just a potential incubator from day one? It was real. The words were barely audible. Every second of it was real, and that's why I have to let you go, because I can't... His voice broke. I can't force you into my nightmare. I won't. Esther's anger deflated. She crossed the room slowly, coming around the desk to face him. Up close, she could see the dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the way his hands trembled slightly. Your father, she said softly. How did it happen? They shot him in the parking structure of his office building. 5 bullets. He died in my arms. Tae-hyun's voice was distant, like he was watching the memory from far away. His last words were, protect the family. Not I love you. Not I'm proud of you. Just duty. Always duty. I'm sorry. Don't be. He wasn't a good man. He was just my father. Tae-hyun finally looked at her, and the rawness in his expression stole her breath. I'm not a good man either, Esther. I've done things to protect the business, to survive in this world that would make you run screaming. You should go while you still can. She should. Every logical part of her brain screamed at her to take the out he was offering and never look back. Instead, she asked, what if I don't want to go? His eyes widened. What? I'm not saying I want to have your baby. I'm not saying I forgive you for the threats. She took a shaky breath. But I'm saying maybe we figure this out together. Find a different solution. There is no other solution. My grandfather is one man. Powerful, yes, but still just one man. She surprised herself with her conviction. There's always another way. We just have to find it. Why would you help me after everything I've done? Because I'm an idiot, she said. a weak smile tugging at her lips. And because somewhere under all this mafia boss nonsense, I think there's a decent man who's just scared and alone. Tae-hyun stood abruptly, closing the distance between them. His hand cupped her face with aching gentleness. You're not an idiot. You're the first real thing I've had in years. Then don't push me away. Whatever he was going to say died when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and went pale. It's my grandfather. He answered in Korean, his tone deferential. Esther watched his expression shift from anxiety to shock to cold fury. The conversation lasted less than 3 minutes. When he hung up, his hand was shaking. What happened? He knows about you, about us. Tae-hyun's voice was hollow. He's invited us both to dinner tomorrow night, said it's time he met the woman carrying his great-grandchild. But I'm not. He doesn't know that. And if he finds out I lied about the pregnancy, Tae-hyun met her eyes. He'll kill me. Not metaphorically. Actually kill me. That's how succession works in my family. Everything went silent. The room tilted. We run, Esther said desperately. We leave tonight. Disappear. He'll find us. And then he'll kill your family too, just to make a point. Tae-hyun pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. I'm so sorry I've dragged you into hell. Then we fight our way out. She didn't know where the words came from, but they felt true. Together. He kissed her then, desperate and hungry and terrified. She kissed him back, tasting fear and need and something that felt dangerously close to love. When they broke apart, he whispered, If we do this, there's no going back. You'll be part of this world. The danger, the secrets, all of it. I know. And you're still staying? She should have said no, should have run, should have chosen safety over this beautiful broken man who'd threatened everything she loved. Instead, she said, I'm staying. His grip tightened. Then we do this my way. Tomorrow night, you play the part of my pregnant fiancé. We convince my grandfather, buy ourselves time to find a real solution. And if we can't convince him, Tae-hyun's smile was dark, then we discover just how much I'm like my father. The next night, the Thai family compound made Tae-hyun's mansion look modest. Sprawling grounds, traditional Korean architecture mixed with modern luxury, security everywhere. Esther felt underdressed despite the designer dress Tae-hyun had sent to her apartment that morning. Emerald silk, elegant but conservative. Remember, Tae-hyun murmured as they walked toward the main house, his hand on the small of her back. You're 12 weeks pregnant. We've been secretly involved for 7 months. You're madly in love with me. Method acting. Got it. Her attempt at humor fell flat. Esther. He stopped, turning her to face him. If anything goes wrong, you run. Don't try to help me. Don't try to be brave. Just run. I'm not leaving you. You will if I tell you to. His tone broke no argument. Promise me. The front door opened. A man who had to be Tae-won stood there, 70-something with iron-grey hair and eyes that could freeze fire. Behind him stood another younger man, early 30s, with a cruel smile. Grandson. Tae-won's voice carried absolute authority. You're late. My apologies, grandfather. Tae-hyun bowed formally. May I introduce... The pregnant cleaning girl? Yes, I'm aware. Tae-won's gaze raked over Esther like she was livestock. Come inside. We have much to discuss. The dining room was intimidatingly formal. Tae-won sat at the head of the table, Tae-hyun on his right, Esther beside him. The cruel-smiled man, Jin-ho, she realized, sat across from them, watching with predatory interest. So, Tae-won began as staff served the first course. Tell me how you seduced my grandson. Esther nearly choked. I'm sorry. A cleaning girl from America. No family connections, no money. Yet somehow you've accomplished what daughters of our finest families could not. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm curious about your methods. I didn't seduce anyone. She glanced at Tae-hyun, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. We fell in love. Love. Tae-won spat the word like it was poison. Love is for poets and fools. My grandson understands duty. With respect, sir, Esther said, surprised by her own boldness. Your grandson understands both. That's why we're here. Jin-ho laughed. She's got fire. I can see the appeal. Quiet, Tae-won snapped. To Esther. You claim to be pregnant. Show me the proof. Grandfather, she's barely showing, Tae-hyun started. Medical records, ultrasound, blood work. Tae-won's stare was unflinching. You have these documents. Esther's heart sank. They'd prepared for questions, but not this. Not with me. How convenient. Tae-won set down his chopsticks with deliberate precision. Jin-ho, call Dr. Yang. We'll verify the pregnancy now. That's not necessary, Tae-hyun said, his voice tight. We can provide documentation. Now. Tae-won's word was final. The next 40 minutes were a nightmare. A doctor arrived, set up a portable ultrasound machine in one of the guest rooms. Esther lay on the examination table, Tae-hyun gripping her hand so hard it hurt. The doctor, an older woman with kind eyes, performed the ultrasound in silence. Seconds stretched to eternity. Finally, she spoke in Korean to Tae-won, who'd insisted on being present. His expression darkened. She's not pregnant, he said in English, turning to Tae-hyun. You lied to me. Grandfather, I can explain. Silence. Tae-won's roar echoed in the small room. You bring this woman into my home, claim she carries my legacy, and it's all lies. Do you know what happens to people who lie to me? It's not his fault, Esther blurted out. I lied to him. I told him I was pregnant because I wanted... Do not insult my intelligence. Tae-won stepped closer and Esther could smell expensive tobacco and something metallic. Fear. You're protecting him. How noble. How foolish. He made a gesture and suddenly, 2 large men were in the room. Security, muscle, whatever, flanking Tae-hyun. Take him to the basement, Tae-won ordered. I'll deal with him personally. No. Esther tried to get up, but the doctor held her down gently. Stay calm, the doctor whispered in heavily accented English. Bad for baby if you stress. Esther froze. What? The doctor glanced toward Tae-won, who was busy giving orders, then leaned close. You are pregnant. Very early. Maybe 3, 4 weeks. I told him you're not because... She nodded toward Tae-hyun. Because I delivered that boy. I knew his mother. She asked me before she died. Protect him from his father, his grandfather. So I protect. Everything stopped. I'm pregnant? Yes. But you didn't know? No. Very early. The doctor squeezed her hand. I tell them no, baby. You take grandson and run far away. This family, they eat their children. Esther's mind reeled. Pregnant. She was actually pregnant. It had to be from that night 8 weeks ago when they'd stayed up talking until sunrise and ended up tangled together on his couch, half-dressed and breathless. They'd only... Esther, go. Tae-hyun's voice snapped her back to reality. The security guards were dragging him toward the door. She ran, not away from him, but toward him. She grabbed one guard's arm and he shoved her backward. She hit the wall hard, vision blurring. Don't you dare touch her. Tae-hyun's voice was murderous. He threw off both guards with shocking strength, rushing to her side. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? I'm fine. She looked past him to see Tae-won pull a gun from inside his jacket. Enough of this circus, the old man said, aiming it at Tae-hyun. You've embarrassed this family for the last time. Grandfather, please. The gunshot was deafening, but it wasn't Tae-won who'd fired. Jin-ho stood in the doorway, his own gun drawn, smoke curling from the barrel. Tae-won stumbled, red blooming across his white shirt. I'm tired of waiting for my inheritance, Jin-ho said calmly. Thanks for gathering, everyone. Made this much easier. Everything happened fast. The security guards turned on Jin-ho, but he'd brought his own men. Gunfire, shouting. Tae-hyun grabbed Esther, shoving her into the attached bathroom. Stay here. Don't come out no matter what you hear. His eyes were wild. If I don't come back, there's a safe in my office. Code is your birthday. Everything you need is inside. Tae-hyun! He kissed her hard and fast. I love you. I should have said it weeks ago. I love you and I'm sorry for everything. Then he was gone, back into the chaos. Esther crouched in the bathroom, hands over her ears, tears streaming down her face. The gunfire seemed endless then. Silence. Horrible, complete silence. She waited 5 minutes, 10, 20. Finally, the door opened. She screamed, "It's me! It's okay! It's me!" Tae-hyun stood there, blood on his shirt, bruises forming on his face, but alive. So alive. She launched herself at him, sobbing into his chest. "I thought you were dead. I thought—" "Shh, I'm here, it's over." He held her like she might disappear. "Jin-ho's dead. Grandfather's in surgery, but he'll make it. The police are coming. We have to—" "I'm pregnant," she blurted out. He went very still. "What?" "The doctor lied to your grandfather. She told him I wasn't pregnant to protect you, but I am. 3 or 4 weeks. The words tumbled out in a rush. From that night on your couch, I think, and I don't know how this happened because we were careful, but—" He kissed her, soft and reverent and full of wonder. When he pulled back, there were tears in his eyes. "You're pregnant. Are you happy? Angry? I can't tell. I'm terrified," he admitted, "and happy and terrified again. Is it possible to feel both?" "I'm feeling about 17 emotions right now, so yes." He laughed, the sound broken and beautiful. "We need to get you to a hospital. Make sure you're okay after—" "I'm fine." She cupped his face. "We're fine. All of us." "All 3 of us," he corrected, his hand moving to her still flat stomach. Holy hell. 3 of us. Police sirens wailed in the distance. The nightmare was ending. But their story, the real one, was just beginning. 3 months later. Imani adjusted Esther's necklace for the 3rd time. "Girl, you're glowing. Pregnancy looks good on you." "Pregnancy looks like I'm constantly nauseous and crying at diaper commercials." But Esther smiled at her reflection. 28 weeks pregnant now, and she'd never felt more beautiful. The venue was perfect. A small garden restaurant, intimate and warm, nothing like the cold formality of the Thai compound. Tae-hyun had wanted to keep the engagement celebration simple. Close friends, chosen family, people who actually mattered. Marcus Chen was there with his new girlfriend. Imani, surprisingly, they'd hit it off when he'd helped with the legal aftermath of Jin-ho's attack, and now they were inseparable. "Never thought I'd date a lawyer," Imani had said. "But damn, he looks good in a suit." Tae-hyun's grandfather was not there. Tae-won had survived the gunshot, but the scandal and investigation into the family's less legal business dealings had forced him into retirement. Tae-hyun was restructuring everything, cutting ties with dangerous elements, legitimizing operations. It was slow, painful work, but necessary. Ready? Tae-hyun appeared beside Esther, devastating in a charcoal suit. He'd cut his hair shorter, looked younger somehow, lighter. "For what? We're already engaged." She held up her hand, showing off the ring he'd given her 6 weeks ago. Not a massive diamond, but an emerald surrounded by small diamonds, elegant and meaningful. "For this." He got down on one knee right there in the middle of their engagement celebration. Conversation stopped. Everyone stared. "Tae-hyun, what are you—" "I did this wrong the first time. Everything about us started wrong." He took her hand. "So, I want to do it right." "Esther Mitchell, you are the bravest, strongest, most beautiful woman I've ever known. You walked into my nightmare and somehow turned it into a dream. You're carrying my child, and every day I wake up amazed that you chose me. Choose me again. Officially. Be my wife." She was crying. Everyone was crying. "We're already engaged, you dramatic man." "Is that a yes?" "It's a yes, you idiot. Now get up before you make me cry harder." She pulled him to his feet, kissing him while their friends applauded. Marcus raised his glass. To new beginnings and leaving the past where it belongs. To found family, Imani added, wrapping an arm around Marcus's waist. To love, Tae-hyun said, his hand resting on Esther's baby bump, in all its complicated, messy, perfect forms. They toasted, they laughed, they celebrated not just an engagement but survival, transformation, hope. Later, as the celebration wound down and guests filtered out, Esther and Tae-hyun stood in the garden, her back against his chest, his arms wrapped around her. Do you ever regret it? He asked quietly. Staying that night instead of running? Every day, she said, then felt him tense. I'm kidding. Mostly kidding. You're terrible. You love me anyway. I do. He pressed a kiss to her temple. More than I thought I could love anything. What about the baby? Okay. Tied for first place with the baby. Happy? She turned in his arms, looking up at this man who'd once threatened to destroy her life and instead had rebuilt it into something better. I'm happy. Scared about parenthood, worried about your family drama never really ending, anxious about 1,000 things, but happy. Good. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. Because you're stuck with me now. Trapped by pregnancy and a legally binding engagement, my mother would be so proud. Speaking of, she's flying in next week to help set up the nursery. Esther's eyes widened. You flew my mother here? From Atlanta? First class. She's staying in the guest house for as long as she wants. He shrugged like it was nothing, but his ears were red. Family takes care of family. She kissed him then, pouring everything she couldn't say into it. Gratitude and love and trust and commitment. When they finally broke apart, he whispered, Thank you. For what? For seeing the man I could be instead of the monster I was. You were never a monster, just a man in an impossible situation. She took his hand, placing it on her stomach where their daughter was currently doing somersaults. And now you're going to be a father. He paled. Don't remind me. I have no idea what I'm doing. Good thing we have 9 months to figure it out. 2 months now. 2 months, he repeated, looking genuinely panicked. That's so soon. Tae-hyun, you survived a gangster grandfather and a coup attempt by your psychotic cousin. You can handle one tiny baby. Can I? She smiled. We both can. Together. Together. It was a promise and a choice and a future all wrapped into one word. As they walked back toward the restaurant, hands intertwined, Esther felt the weight of the past months lift. The threats, the fear, the impossible choices. They'd survived it all. And now, finally, they could start living. 6 months later. The nursery. 3 in the morning. She's definitely yours, Esther groaned, pacing the room with their screaming daughter. Because she never sleeps and has a flair for the theatrical. Tae-hyun stumbled in, hair everywhere, wearing pajama pants backward. My turn. Give her here. Are you sure? You've got that meeting in the morning. Our meeting. We're partners now, remember? He took baby Hannah and miraculously she started to calm. Plus, you need sleep. You've been up 4 times already. Esther collapsed into the rocking chair, watching her husband they'd gotten married in a quiet ceremony 6 weeks before Hannah was born, gently bounce their daughter. He was singing something in Korean, soft and melodic. What's that song? She asked. Something my mother used to sing. I barely remember it, but... He looked down at Hannah, who was finally settling. I think she'd be happy knowing we made it. We did make it against all odds. He carefully placed Hannah in her crib, then joined Esther in the chair, pulling her onto his lap. You know what I realized today? A year ago, I was willing to blackmail you into having my baby. Now I can't imagine a world where you're not here by choice. He kissed her shoulder. I was such an ass. You were, she agreed. But you got better. Because of you. Because you wanted to be better. I just gave you a reason. They sat in the dark nursery, exhausted and happy and covered in various baby fluids. And Esther thought about how far they'd come from that horrible dinner ultimatum to this. A real family built on choice and love and hard-won trust. Hey, Tae-hyun whispered. I love you. I know. That's my line. I'm the Han Solo in this relationship. She laughed quietly. Fine. I love you too, you dramatic reformed mafia boss. Former mafia connections, he corrected. I'm fully legitimate now. Sure. Whatever helps you sleep. You help me sleep. That's the cheesiest thing you've ever said. I'm a father now. I'm legally required to be cheesy. They stayed there until sunrise, talking in whispers, checking on Hannah, stealing kisses, and building their future one quiet moment at a time. It wasn't the life either of them had planned. It was better. If you enjoyed this story of redemption and second chances, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more captivating tales. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought of Esther and Tae-hyun's journey. Until next time.